Hey, welcome to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with Jeff Gerard, on your place for news, talk, and information, keeping you, keeping you safe, getting out of debt, managing your money, planning for your future, and trying to make sure that you don't end up broke in your retirement. Look, we've worked nonstop, if you will, most of our lives. Most of us have. And when you do so, the goal is to be able to retire, whatever that means for you. And for everybody, it's a little different. But it's to retire and have at least not have money as a big concern, a big issue. And Jeff, we've looked at this over and over again. And we always have different topics and different things to kind of help people, whether it's traveling and saving some money there, or whether it's retiring wealthy. But, you know, for a lot of people, retiring wealthy is a goal. But I want to say more importantly, at least for maybe everybody, it's retiring not broke, right? I mean, there's a difference, guys.
Sure.
Flying around in private jets is one thing, but making sure you have food, shelter, clothing, that's a minimum need I think everybody wants to meet.
And I have to agree with you. That baseline need being met in retirement, I think, is the first place we should start really channeling and focusing our energy on when it comes to saving for retirement. And whether that means that you find a job that has a certain type of pension benefit or something where you're going to have a baseline income met there, and then maybe some Social Security. You're going to look at some areas in which you can find multiple sources of income that just make that, just make retirement just that much easier. And then if you have some savings goals above and beyond that, and you have some extra money there, then maybe your lifestyle can change. But I think that first part is to really focus on making sure you're not broke. That's because you can't go back to work once you've, gotten a little older, and by definition you're retired. I mean, you can't go back and get a do-over.
Yeah. If you go back into that same career, what you're doing is you're going back and you're looking and saying, hey, everybody, I'm back. And they look at you and realize that the technology has changed.
Sure.
Realize the people that you worked for, your old co-workers are now 2 boss levels above you, or they're gone as well and retired or in a different industry. And that changes because suddenly you're not as special or important as it was the day they threw you a retirement party.
Right.
Now you are to your family, but I mean, really, everybody's life moves on. And it's interesting when you leave a job or you leave a career or you retire completely, people remember you, they care about you, they're happy that you're living, but they have things to do called work.
Sure.
And you're not there anymore, and you want to call up and say, hey, everybody, let's go to lunch on Thursday. And they're like, oh, we have a business meeting, or we have a staff meeting, or I've got to get reports ready, and you're now in a different world. Worst thing is for you to be able to retire and not be able to live. For example, your friends say, hey, we're going to take a cruise around the Mediterranean this fall. Would you like to go? And you're thinking, I don't have $7,000 to take that trip. So because your paychecks are still coming in. You've heard this talk before. Tom Henya, an author, somebody who's been on our show a few times, at least his topics have, and we had him in here as a guest once. When you look at the play checks, right? Food, shelter, clothing, insurance, that's paid for. But what about the play checks? That's nice. You get to live at home. You get to exist. But what about enjoying life? So there's some challenges there that we want to focus on as well today.
Sure. And when you're living, and when you're talking about people living on fixed incomes, you hear this a lot when people say, oh, I can't do that. I'm on a fixed income. That means that if they were to pull from their paychecks to go play or vacation or whatever you want to fill in that blank with, that would take away from their baseline income. That would take away from their baseline retirement lifestyle, if you will. That means their food, shelter, clothing, they're just not going to go without that. They're not going to go and skip a utility bill or a payment on their housing, right? You get the point. So once that is taken care of and you're starting to look at other goals for savings, I think that's kind of where the exciting part comes in. You're talking about, it's so funny when you're saying going back and after you've retired or you've left a company. I got a bit of a dose of that. I spent almost a decade working in the aviation industry, and a good part of it was with one particular company. I remember going back and visiting, and you always have a couple people that are still there, and they remember you, and maybe it was the manager, and then somebody else moves on, and then somebody else moves on, and then pretty soon you go back and visit a couple, 3 years later, and almost nobody that you know works there anymore. And then how do you go back and feel relevant? Now imagine going back and trying to work and be in that. I mean, even the visit was kind of awkward, and I just stopped doing it after a while. But
yeah, you get that sense that that it's just kind of like not your thing anymore. You just
Right.
don't belong anymore. And there's a weird part of that component in your life that says, I'm a big part of this business, and yet they don't think that anymore. You're just
don't
not
know
that
you.
important.
Yeah.
Here's one of the things I've seen time and again is people retire. The habits that you have established before retirement. Here's a good example. I met with somebody recently. They said, Arif, we recycle everything. We recycle yarn. We recycle wood. That we go to yard sales and garage sales, and we get old bookcases and chairs, and we refurbish them and repaint them and sand them down and give them away to our friends and family. We sell them and just enjoy them, and it's part of our life. Well, they have well over $1 million saved. And
Nice.
to tell somebody who's had to live their life that way, financially speaking, or that they chose to, that now, poof, you're retired, you have multiple sources of income, you can live and travel and do what you'd like to do, and guess what they still do? Go to yard sales,
Yep.
recycle yarn, recycle. The financial life is not about spending money anymore. And I have to sit there and convince them it is time for you to enjoy spending. And yet on the other side, we have people who have spent their money their entire life. And now they're retired. And because they happen to have received a job, earned it, stayed there, they now had $800,000 in a pension buyout. What that means is, here's a chunk of money. We're never going to give you the $3,500 a month ever, but we're going to give you $800,000 in cash. So, yes, you are 60 years old, but you have to make this $800,000 last the rest of your life.
Sure.
So we built a little plan, we did what we're going to do, put it all together, great.
Mm-hmm.
Now in doing so and putting it all together, they said, well, I guess I have $800,000 in cash. No, you don't. You have $3,500 a month. So guess what she's done? She's pulled out tens of thousands of dollars,
Ooh.
more than she should, because she's thinking, oh, it's only $5,000. Oh, I'm going to take all my family on a trip. And they never understood the concept of saving or being frugal or planning or careful. Instead, her habits were spending nearly everything and then some that she made. In retirement, it's no different, except now you have more time. It's called a lifetime of Saturdays. You've heard us say that Saturdays
Yeah.
are the day of the week that people spend the most money, statistically speaking.
Sure.
They spend the most money on Saturdays. If you're spending the most money on Saturdays and now your life is like a bunch of Saturdays, 7 days a week, or minus if you go to church, right, whatever that is, that lifetime of Saturdays means you better have a disciplined approach to the way you spend, save, and invest money, or you end up becoming somebody who's broke, retired, and no job or skills that anybody wants anymore. And
Well,
that's a scary part, because now you're sick.
Yep.
Look, there's a mixture here, Jeff. We've seen it. I don't want your life being one doctor's appointment to the next. That's how you live, right?
We've heard that.
What are you
Yep.
doing Thursday? Well, I have a doctor's appointment at noon, so anytime after that. Well, that's really your life, is about doctor's visits? And I guess it is after a certain age. But wouldn't it be nice to have some sort of career or choice that you live where life is much more important? It's not about just a doctor's visit. It's about enjoying it. But I can't have you spending more money and then living till age 78, 85, 92, and now you have no money. You got to go back to work.
Well, and you were talking about that lump sum buyout from a pension. That's almost like winning the lottery for some people. And I can't tell you how many times we've heard the story of someone coming into a big sum of money, whether it is a lottery or an inheritance. And statistically speaking, the average inheritance is spent in about 8 months, right? And how many times have we heard people going broke after having that amount of money? I know someone that's inherited over $1 million twice.
Oh.
And has none of it. Twice, not once, but twice. Two
Oh.
wealthy family members passed, and they have none of it. They still have to work. Okay, fine. You blew the first one, great.
Yeah, you got a nice truck. You got a nice car.
Here's your
whatever.
second chance, and you're still working. Wonderful person, but terrible with money.
Yeah, and you've heard me say this. Look, there are people in this world that have lived and struggled, right? They come to this country. They sleep in the back of a liquor store or a donut shop or in the fields, and they go to college. Sometimes they don't, and their kids or grandkids do. Or they live in the back of a mechanic shop. But then after 4 or 5 years, they manage the place. Mm-hmm. And then after 10 years, they own the place. And 20 years later, they're millionaires. And I don't care if they come from Asia, Latin America, or Eastern Europe. And yet you have people that have been born in this country, that have had all the rights and privileges of this country, And the only thing they can do is find out what's wrong with this country. And they want to blame this or blame that. And for 14 generations, they can't get out of their own way, and they're still on government assistance. Folks, I get it. Everybody has a bad day. But if you have a culture of working hard and succeeding and not blaming people, in other words, you don't have a big V for victim on your chest, then you've got a shot at life in America. This is one of the only places you do. Because relatively speaking, it's a fair system, right? You're not going to have to bribe the government official here. You're not going to have to bribe the police officer to get out of jail there, or bribe the government military person, right? It's a different world. Except some of you still find things wrong. And I get it. It's wrong. Okay, yep. And you still have to eat dinner tomorrow. So I guess everybody has reasons and beliefs. I can tell you, not in today's show, but I think I kind of have figured it out enough to say why certain groups believe that have been born in this country that they have lived this whole life and they're still broke. And you have others that make a decision. They come to America, again, with thick accents. Some of them don't speak the language very well at all. And they're wealthy. So I want you to focus on what is right for you and your family, but realize whatever habits you have had, when you get into and through retirement, you will carry those habits. Respecting money, respecting people, respecting authority, or not. Blowing money, being a not so nice person. I know somebody recently who decided it was time to leave a spouse. You go, wow, why? Because they just are not a nice person. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're just not a nice person. They're grumpy, they mean, they chase people away, they're not social. Well, folks, if that person was a jerk at 10, 15 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, it doesn't change unless they're willing to make a change. It doesn't just happen overnight. So that's a big difference in your financial life when you're dealing with somebody who is a potential spouse who doesn't respect money, hard work, and they run around and claim safe space and victim and narcissistic behaviors. I get it if all of their friends and family think the same way. But that is not America, folks. That is called California. Travel outside of California like I did recently and Jeff did recently. They think we're as crazy as a $3 bill on this side of the coast.
Pretty much.
They have no idea why New York and Los Angeles aren't even a part of the same country. Try to be on a college campus? Holy tamales. People think, wait a second, you're just mad at something that happened and you're going to destroy people's businesses? Do you get it? What you focus on, your habits, your beliefs, carry through retirement and through your lifestyle. So be very careful. We're going to come back and we're going to continue with Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif and Jeff Gerard. All right, some tricks to retiring wealthy. Hey, if that's what you want to do, we've got some tricks for you. Some little things, little pieces of, I hope, wisdom. Things that can help you after 21 years almost in this industry. Arif Halaby and Jeff Gerard, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. We'll be right back.